So in this slide, I will explain about the sales transaction process and how it's recorded within the accurate accounting system. And we will walk through the entire flow from the creation of sales order until receipt of payment. So when a sales occurs, the process begins with the creation of sales order, which record the customer details, item order, quantity, and also the total amount. And the sales order is processed into a sales invoice, officially recognizing the transaction as a sales. Once payment is received from the customer, a sales receipt is recorded to confirm that the invoice has been successfully settled. So what makes this process is wonderful is what happens in the behind the scene. The moment a sales invoice is created, the account is automatically generate a journal voucher at once, like recognizing sales revenue, calculating VAT, recording account receivable, and also most importantly is automatically recognizing the cost of goods sold while the reduction of finished good inventory. And this entire process is happened in a single transaction with no manual record. And this demonstrates the seamless integration between the sales module, inventory module, and also the accounting module within the accurate, and also ensuring that the every sale is not only recorded as revenue but also fully reflected across the company financial statement in real time.
Now let's go through the financial statement of Cermat Cermut for the period of January until February 2026. From the profit and loss report, our total revenue was 63 million coming from both credit and cash sales across the 2-month period. After deducting the cost of goods sold of 60 million, we arrive at a gross profit of 13 million. That's roughly 20% of revenue, a decent figure at the top level. However, we need to look deeper because this number doesn't yet reflect our true profitability. Looking at our operating expense, the total came to 12 million. And the largest component is wages and salaries at 7.8 million, followed by equipment depreciation, including the oven, planetary mixer, and sealer. So the totaling is 1 million, and then vehicle depreciation at 1.3 million, rent at 1.2 million, and patent amortization at 26,000. These expenses are quite significant relative to our business scale, leaving us with an operating income of only 1.7 million. After accounting for other income and expense, our final net profit is 1.7 million. And then our net profit margin is around 2.8 million, which is quite thin. The main reason is the heavy operating expense, particularly the wages and fixed asset depreciation that we have to bear every month. So now, let's look at the balance sheet. Cermat Cermut's total assets as of February 28, 2026 were 356. This consists of current assets of 183, mostly made up of cash and inventory, and fixed assets of 172 after accumulated depreciation. And the total liabilities were 14 million, and total equity was 341 million. And then adding them together gives us 356 million, exactly equal to total assets. The balance sheet is balanced, which confirms that all transactions inputs in accurate, were consistent, and nothing was missed. Then it is about cash flow. From the indirect method cash flow report, our operational cash flow in February was a positive is 7.99 million, a significant increase from January, which was only 1.6 million. This improvement shows that our operations were generating healthier cash in the second month. From the direct method, operating profit in February was 11 million. It is a sharp increase from January, which was still at negative 1.5 million. The large difference between January and February is understandable as January had many initial business expenses that weren't yet matched by sufficient sales. And by February, sales picked up and cash flow improved accordingly. And then we move to COGS calculation and reflection. Now let's get into the COGS calculation. At the planning stage, we designed the Cermat Cermut to produce two products, shoes and stick. That is why in this spreadsheet you can see the overhead costs such as electricity, water, gas, and employee wages were allocated to both products based on a percentage assumption. For example, electricity was allocated 20% to stick and 18% to SUS. Direct labor was also split across the making, filling, and packaging departments accordingly. And then, based on those percentage assumptions, we calculate the COGS for SUS. The result was a COGS of 16 million prices of SUS, consisting of raw materials, factory overhead, and direct labor from all three production departments, such as making, filling, and packaging department. However, we need to be transparent. In reality, the stick production was never carried out during this period. Despite that, our COGS calculation still used the original percentage allocation from the planning stage, meaning a portion of the overhead was still being allocated to stick even though it wasn't produced. This means the COGS figure we arrive at is still assumption-based and doesn't fully reflect the actual condition. Ideally, since stick was not produced, 1% of the overhead should have been reallocated entirely to SUS, which would have given us a more accurate cost per unit. This contributed to the appearance of a production cost difference of 4 million in our profit and loss report. On top of that, this difference also arose because from batch 1 through batch 6, we had not yet created WIP accounts inaccurate. It's meaning the production costs were not flowing correctly through the work in progress accounts in those early batches. Once we identified this issue, we immediately added to WIP accounts starting from batch 7 onwards until the end of the period. From that point on, the production cost flow was running correctly through the proper accounts. So we move to reflection from our group. So there are 3 key reflections we take away from this COGS process. The first, since stick production wasn't carried out but our COGS calculation still used the original percentage assumptions. So the COGS figure for SUS isn't fully accurate. So the solution will be to revise the overhead allocation to 100% towards SUS to better reflect the actual situation. And the second, WIP accounts were not set up from the very first batch, which caused the production cost recording to be incomplete in the early stage. We identified this and corrected it from batch 7 until the end of the period. And the third and last, the combination of both issues resulted in a significant production cost difference, which ultimately put pressure on our gross margin. Going forward, we recommend that overhead allocation assumptions always be adjusted to match actual production condition from the start, and that the WIP accounts be prepared before the first batch runs, so that the financial statements produced are more accurate and can serve as a reliable basis for business decision making.